Hi, I'm Brian the HypnoSwami, and today I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story, about how I got into health and changed my life. But before we get into the details of my story and how I can help you, I'd like to show you a picture of how I used to look. This is how I used to look. I weighed over 200 pounds. I was sick, had low self-confidence, smoked, and was just an overall mess. Even though I looked healthy here, I was not healthy inside. I originally started my career wanting to become a chef, but even though I was learning about food, my diet was terrible. A lot of nights I would have an ice cream sandwich and beef jerky for dinner. There was times when I'd just have a bag of chips. I'd drink soda, I smoked, and I fell into various addictions such as alcohol. The kitchen life is very difficult. And since it's such a high stress type of environment, there's a lot of things that people do behind the scenes to basically blow off steam. It's almost like a rock and roll lifestyle, really. I started my career as a chef, as I said before. And I went to Culinary Academy, which is basically a school for chefs where you learn how to cook. I was specializing in French and California gourmet cuisine. I loved working in the kitchen, but it was a lot like a rock and roll lifestyle. It was very stressful, and there was a lot of alcohol and things like that that coincided with the business. I remember after I got trained, when I was working in the field, one of the only ways that we could really get away for a break was to say that we needed to smoke a cigarette. So of course, throughout that whole career, I was a smoker. Even though they trained us in nutrition, we had a tendency to not pay much attention to it for ourselves. It was very important for the people who we were cooking for, though, which is kind of ironic. Because, as many of you know, the only way that you can really take care of other people is by taking care of yourself first. Now, when I got out of culinary school, I worked in the field, I worked at fine restaurants. I actually worked in fine restaurants even before I went to culinary school. But that's kind of what led me into wanting to become a professional trained chef. And so I did that, and as I worked in my career as a chef, I continued to move up the ladder and get better and better until I was actually managing a kitchen of my own. Right around about a year after I started managing kitchens and things like that, maybe it was a time span between 1 year and 4 years. It was so long ago it's hard to remember, but it was a long time. On my way to work one day, I was hit by a car, and unfortunately it left me disabled. It gave me a herniated disc in my L5 lower lumbar area, and that created a sciatica problem so bad that I could barely even walk. When I would walk with a cane, and I was on all kinds of medications, such as, it started out with Vicodin, and then that stopped working, and then they started giving me oxycodone, and then that stopped working, and eventually I ended up on morphine, and that stopped working. So that led me into having to get epidural shots in my back to try to block the pain. After one of the epidural shots, it really left me disabled more than I had been before. The doctor who gave me the shot said, "Okay, don't move," and he stuck that thing in my spine, and I went, "Ow!" And that's probably why it made me worse, because I moved when the doctor told me not to. I was in really bad shape. I was depressed because I couldn't work in my chosen field of culinary arts anymore, and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up looking for some services to help me, and that led me to finding a vocational rehabilitation counselor. And I told her about my passion for food and how much I love to cook, and she said, well, Brian, you're just going to have to figure out how to use your brain now instead of your body. So she helped me go back to college. And as I was going to college, I figured, well, it'd be logical for me to become a nutritionist. So I went in originally studying nutrition and physiology and anatomy and all those things. And there was a few things that I disagreed with. I know that healthy raw food, raw produce closest to the garden has to be more healthy for you. But all over the textbooks said that canned foods were just as healthy as something picked fresh out of the garden. And so that was my first red flag. Right around the same time, I started studying more about hypnosis and yoga, emotional freedom technique, neurolinguistic programming, personal fitness training, and of course, I was laying the foundation to become a nutritionist. I felt very strongly about how food could actually heal you if you chose the right foods that were closer to the garden and not that canned food. But all the studies showed that canned food was just as good as the real food that comes from the garden. And I discovered one of the reasons why was because a lot of these studies were funded by corporations who were skewing the results in their favor to make things look as though they were just as healthy as fresh food from the garden. Then I found out that a nutritionist, a person with a nutrition degree, usually they have to shove tubes down people's throats and things like that in the hospital to help them eat and stay healthy from various nutrients. And that really wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And ever since I was young, I was a peer counselor, and I was always very therapeutic oriented. I had been exposed to hypnosis at a very young age because my mom had phobias and things like that. So I decided to work towards becoming a psychologist instead. And that was probably the best decision I ever made in my life, because it really enabled me to help people more than just giving them nutritional advice. While I was working on my associate's degree, I went to a 4-year degree program to become a clinical hypnotherapist. And throughout that time, I decided to go above and beyond just becoming a hypnotist, but I wanted to become a master of the unconscious mind. So I learned a lot of things, such as I got a diploma in handwriting analysis, I studied symbology, and all types of these ancient systems that have been ingrained into our world psyche, if you will. I even went as far as studying every religion so that I would make sure that I was able to relate with any person who came in, because I was raised, the classic European way. And so learning cultural diversity was very important as well for me to be able to actually be therapeutic to everyone who comes into the office. So I continued on and got my bachelor's in psychology as well. And then I continued on to get my master's degree in clinical mental health counseling for licensure. Along that whole path, I continued to also study various nutrition, like natural hygiene, the raw food diet. I also studied and became certified in yoga. I became a personal fitness trainer. And I did all of this because weight loss was such a difficult issue. It was really simple for me to help people stop smoking after I was able to stop smoking. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But weight loss was always a little bit more difficult. And being overweight, I really had to figure out how to lose weight myself to be able to help other people as well. Just like I had to stop smoking myself before I was able to really help other people stop smoking. So, I've been there. I smoked. I was on pills. I drank a lot of alcohol. I was overweight. And, these are the reasons why I feel like I can really help you through this YouTube channel and through my private services, which I also offer. Now, I'll just throw this out here, that if you do want to set up a free consultation, you're going to want to give me a call at 530-828-0880. You can also check out my websites. One of them is www.hypnoswami.com, and the other one is www.northstatehypnosis.net. Now, this is all at the time of this recording. My phone number will never change. The HypnoSwami website will never change either. Now, you know that I did a lot of these things. I was through the smoking, the weight loss, and I had self-confidence issues. I was addicted. But there was definitely a progression. And I wish I could say that I came into the hypnosis profession already have been cured of all those things, but that's not the way it went down. Actually, when I first stopped smoking was basically because I believe in leading by example very strongly. And I remember very clearly my second year of running my hypnotherapy clinic, I had a client come in complaining about another hypnotist who smelled like cigarettes. At that time, I was still smoking, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I didn't have a cigarette before that session. But it also was a wake-up call. And back then, smoking was still socially acceptable. Me and my friends would go play pool and have a couple beers, and they would smoke outside. So I had to figure out ways to stop smoking so that the excuse of having a break wouldn't pop up. The social connection of going outside with friends wouldn't pop up. And so I learned that instead of the way that I was doing it fresh out of school, some things need to change from the theory of smoking cessation into actually being able to stop smoking myself. And so this is why I studied meditation all over, to find a new coping mechanism that would replace the smoking habit. And I was able to do that. I put myself on the same program that I've been using for years now, more than a decade, helping other people stop smoking with the same technique that I used on myself after it changed. Because there's a few things that they teach in school, which is great theory, but when it comes down to really doing it, there are some differences. And I think that once someone's been through some kind of shift like that themselves, they're better empowered to be able to help other people complete the same mission. So the whole program changed drastically from the way I was trained in school, from when I actually had to stop smoking for me and for my clients. So since I've changed it, I went from about 70% success rate to 97% success rate, which is huge, especially since the leading pill on the market right now, at the time this video is being recorded, is Chantix, which has like a 50% success rate. So that's a huge improvement from 50, even from 70 to 97%, and I'm very proud of that. The weight loss is also something that I've worked very hard on, and what I do is I use a little bit of a different approach, and there's all these gimmicky things out there like the hypnotic lap band or the hypnotic gastric bypass, which are great ideas and they're great marketing ploys, but when it comes down to practical health, to really truly being healthy, there's some elements that I've learned from becoming a certified nutritionist twice over, one from being a personal fitness trainer and one from culinary school, from actually being a personal fitness trainer and certified in yoga. There's a lot of elements that I'm bringing to the table besides just the psychology of hypnosis. And I believe it's very important to look at all of these things as a multifaceted dynamic, because if we're just using psychology, then we're missing out on a lot of nutritional elements that can really help empower people, such as eating more closer to the garden. And that can be very difficult for people to just willpower themselves through. But with hypnosis, it makes it really easy. And I'm living proof. You saw the picture of me. I was over 200 pounds in that picture. Now, I weigh exactly the same as what I weighed fresh out of high school, 155 pounds, which is amazing, and I feel great. Now, I have done some fasting and things like that also, which are core tenets of the natural hygiene movement. And I will be talking in this series about natural hygiene, how to eat better, and I'll be providing various recipes for you, and I'll actually also be giving you exercise and fitness challenges. You're going to get probably about 3 videos a month. I'm going to try to record every week, but 3 videos, one on nutrition and hypnosis or a meditation, something of that nature. One will cover an actual recipe that I'll provide for you, just like the Master's Cleanse one that I gave you. And then the other one will be a fitness video. So I believe that this package is really going to help empower my YouTubers out there. And I hope that it's bringing something unique that you can't really find anywhere else yet. So please subscribe to this channel. It helps out a lot. It helps me keep these videos coming to you for free. Once again, there's no cost. And also, you'll see these advertisements from people who are advertising on my YouTube channel. If you click on some of those, that helps me really stay motivated to keep these videos coming to you. So support the HypnoSwami. Brian the HypnoSwami will support you. Once again, these videos are free. There's no charge at all. They'll stay free forever. But there are some elements where I'll be able to help you even more if you contact me directly, such as giving you private coaching lessons or one-on-one hypnotherapy sessions. I also have developed another technique which I call hypnotic linguistic consulting. And this is a technique which helps really empower your own internal self-dialogue to transform it into a negative pattern into a very positive pattern. Because what happens sometimes is that if a hypnotist just installs a new program through the hypnotic patterns that they're using, sometimes your own internal self-dialogue will corrode that new program just like a virus on a computer. So I've developed this method which really helps eliminate that negative self-talk. It starts with where you're at and creates a bridge to being able to think more positive. Now I believe that's very important because there's a lot of these law of attraction videos out there which just tell you you got to think more positive, which is fine for someone who's an optimist already. But in clinical counseling, we always start with where the client is. And that's very important because if someone just says, oh, you got to think more positive, you know that they don't understand where you're coming from. So it's very important to start with where you're at, create the bridge that's going to get you to where you want to be. And that's what I offer through hypnotherapy, hypnotic linguistic consulting, life coaching, and the other services that I provide as well. But I look forward to helping you just through these free videos and through private sessions. So if you'd like to schedule a free consultation, give me a call at 530-828-0880. There's no charge for free consultations at all. We can do them over Skype as well. Just call me and let me know that that's what you want. And of course, we can do all of these sessions over Skype or Google Hangouts. There is an advantage to using Google Hangout though, because if we do a Google Hangout session for you, I can create you a private YouTube link of the exact session that you experienced. And then you can use that session over and over as many times as you want. I appreciate you sitting here and listening to my story, and I hope to hear your story very soon. Once again, I'm Brian the HypnoSwami from www.hypnoswami.com, and my phone number is 530-828-0880. For now, HypnoSwami out. And thank you for joining me, Hypno Yogis.